the Jaguars and the Eagles, a game we were very excited about. I'm kind of bummed that they had to play it in a downpour.
Yeah.
But my biggest takeaway from this game is that when you watch that game back, it seemed like the Jags were playing in a sideways rainstorm, and it didn't seem like the Eagles were. And I think that explains the difference in the game. And I think the Eagles made conscious choices to limit the impact that the weather had on the game. And I think that's why they won.
Yep. I think there's a big difference between, and the weather, of course, isn't the same, but you watch that Bears 49ers game in a monsoon, and then you watch this game in the rain, and it's like, well, these Eagles and Jags teams are a lot better football teams because it didn't seem as crazy. Like it did, but it didn't. We'll talk about Trevor Lawrence in a second, but I agree. The run game that the Eagles got to, they understood RPO game's probably not going to be great. We can't hit these glance routes because that's hard. That's hard, handwork for the quarterback and footwork.
They hit like 2, and that was enough.
Yeah, it's hard to lead into it because that's just hard. Like you have to flip the ball, get the laces, and throw it in rain and with wind and everything. So they just went, okay, let's get Devin Lloyd. Let's get this rookie linebacker and put him in a bind. And they put him in the walls of Jericho. I mean, they did.
Luakon too.
Oh,
he was just.
Oh my god,
rough
spinning
day.
But watch the linebackers. So like at first, what's his name? Fatukasi, the defensive lineman, he went out. But the linebackers, watch them get in a bind every time the Eagles were running the ball. Zone read, split zone, just every time they did it, you could see the linebackers, they're going with Hurts because they're so worried about him keeping the ball. And then so they got all these great angles in the run game. And so that's why the Eagles were able to pound the rock. And then also the Eagles have answers. Okay, you want to play single high? We have these dudes that can win one-on-one. Okay, you want to go too high? Well, just do this. They don't even have to throw RPOs. They can just do the QB zone read game, it sounds basic, but when they can put a linebacker in a bind like that where they hesitate a half second, their offensive line's so good they get to the second level, and it's Jordan.
They get an extra blocker on every play.
Every play.
They get an extra body on every play. And you watch what it looks like. Like, how is this so fucking easy? And it's because they don't have to block the end man on the line of scrimmage ever. And it always gives them an advantage. And they're already so good in the run game that giving them that little bump, it makes things unfair. There was a stretch that like 7-ish, I think, in the third quarter, where they had like 3 or 4 run plays in a row. I watched them back like 5 times, just salivating as I watched these plays. Man. There was like 2 in a row where the double team, it was a combination. They're climbing to the second level between Kelsey and the right guard, and it's perfect. They're getting great movement. They're coming off it exactly how they should. And then on the Sanders touchdown, it was 3:59, I think, in the third quarter. It was beautiful. It's a zone replay. They leave the end man in the line of scrimmage unblocked. They, instead of comboing up to the linebacker, they have the right guard blocked down and Kelsey pull around. And then they had Dickerson almost instantly went to the second.
They're the only team that does that. That's an old school thing. Yes.
And my understanding is that they have a lot of freedom. I remember talking to Jeff Stoutland about this, and I've mentioned this on the show a couple times, where they just kind of have all right, here's the problem. How do you 5 guys solve this problem? And when you have a center like Jason Kelsey, that allows you to do it. And by doing that, you create angles in the run game, and there's such great movement. Kelsey didn't even have anyone to block because Devontae Smith blocked the safety, which was awesome. And you watch that happen. And like what you said about them having answers to everything, that's what this game felt like. It's like, all right, we're playing in a rainstorm against this defense that has a ton of speed, but maybe doesn't have the best eyes at linebacker or is a little bit young in that position. Here's what our game plan is going to look like. We're going to run the shit out of the ball. We're going to throw screens to Dallas Goedert. We're going to throw little tunnel screens to A.J. Brown every once in a while. We're going to hit 2 glance routes, and that's going to be it. I think Jalen Hurts averaged like 6 air yards per attempt, which is much lower than a season average. It's bottom 5 in the league this week, and about 2.5 second average time to throw in this game, which for Jalen Hurts is very, very quick. Because that's what the game plan was. While Trevor Lawrence looked like the ball was covered in Vaseline for 4 quarters.
And the tight end screen stuff that's still putting the linebackers in a bind because they were catching them where Lloyd was
play
like,
action screens.
Yes. And Lloyd's like, oh, you're blocking. I'm going to trigger and come downhill. And then there's Dallas Goedert running up the sideline. But also it's such an advantage, especially with these aggressive coaches, because I want to commend them, Nick Sirianni, for going for a 4th down so early and often. It's such an advantage when you have a run game like that and it's 3rd and 9 and go, we just got to get 6. Like, okay, you want to check it down? You want to scramble? You want to, and we can get to 4th and 3 and we have answers. I was just looking at the EPA for this. They basically created an extra field goal of points just by going for it on fourth down. 2.9 EPA. That in a game like this that you think is going to be a battle in the rain, that matters. We talk about game inches, 1% better. You just basically created a field goal out of nothing just by doing this. And that's
a great point.
That is such an advantage when you have a run game like this, because 3 yards in a cloud of dust, that's great when it's 4th and 2 a bunch. And we have answers and we can get those first downs in different ways. It's one of those things where it's like, yes, I want to see Jalen Hurts drop back and do all this. This wasn't that type of game to see that. But the fact that the Eagles had answers in a muck game like this, it's tip of the cap to them, because this is not an easy Jaguars defense. It really isn't. They made it look like that in the run game, but it really isn't. This Jaguars defense is a problem for a lot of other teams.
Mailata didn't play for most of the game. They did this without their left tackle for most of the game, which I also think may have played in the decision making. Let's get the ball out quick. Let's help our quarterback. Let's help our line. Let's help everybody.
Adjusting.
And they did such a good job of that.
Yes.
My favorite 4th down sequence was they had that 3rd and goal from, I believe, the 16 at one point, and Hurts instantly takes off when he sees grass.
Yep.
And I don't think, based on I got reached out about this, I don't think they had told him you should go for it on 4th down here. We're going to go for it if you get this amount of yardage. But I do think that they have such a refined process there, and the guys know it, that I think that does kind of seep into your mindset on it's 3rd and 6, goal from the 16. If I get 9, if I get 10, maybe we can go for it on 4th down. That's just what they do. And I think when it feels like that, there's no hesitation when that situation arises, when that decision arises, it ends up becoming the way you play. It ends up becoming the way that you operate. And I think that in the end, over time, we've seen it with the Ravens. We've seen it with all these other teams that tend to go for it on 4th down. It is going to give you an advantage if you have that certainty and that ambition with how that process works.
When everybody's on the same page. That's what coaching is the coaches can know everything. And this is what's hilarious about really smart coaches. It's like, but what do your players know? So you could say, we're going to be aggressive, but everyone knows you're going to be aggressive. We're all on the same page. I mean, Doug Peterson, also commend to him. Like, he's very aggressive as well. He did it last week against the Chargers. Same thing. He's kind of the OG with it now. But now
the Bills have got advantages by going for it on 4th down today. So many teams all the time. It happens all the time, but we never talk about it when it works.
Yes, I know. It's only when it doesn't. But it's just that confidence that instills in this team. And we haven't talked about the Eagles defense and Trevor Lawrence. Apparently he's not a mutter. He's not, because I could only find the one college game that he didn't play in that he played in the rain, and he went 12 for 24 for 118 yards in that one rain game.
It's okay. It never rains in Jacksonville.
Never.
So it's going to be totally fine.
You don't get a daily shower at 3 o'clock.
Florida
Never.
weather is really predictable. It's a great place to be.
I know. So I'm not out. It was one of those games. I mean, I get it, but it's the interception that James Bradbury
interception wasn't that bad.
No, it was him. This is why I like Trevor Lawrence. He took the haymaker when he could have just jabbed him, because that was a play. They ran switch verticals with a swing. They ran it last week twice against the Chargers, caught on a blitz both times, and Trevor Lawrence hit the swing route. So you know what? He knows he puts that on film, that hit the swing route. Okay, they run the same play. Eagles blitz, got him. The hot route's there. The swing is the hot route on this play. But he goes, you know what? They know that. I'm going to hit the shot right here. And he backpedals, hit it. James Bradbury makes a great play, falling off it was a switch vertical, so it was the inside vertical. Boom, makes a great play. It was like a great play against a great play, like Heady versus Heady. So it's just one of those. It was just a good play. It was an NFL freaking play. That's what that was.
To get that ball off at the back of your drop,
2 guys free,
blitz was amazing. And he thinks in that moment, you can correct me if I'm wrong, the way that play is structured, I think the Eagles were just playing cover 3 behind it, right? Like what you do with a lot of zone blitzes.
It was fire zone. Yep.
He assumes that Marvin Jones is going to run James Bradbury out of that space.
Yep.
When he sees Bradbury go with Marvin Jones right away, his thought is, that's open. If I can get it to that, that's open. And James Bradbury makes a play. He comes off of it and makes a play. So even though it's an ugly interception, and if you look at the box score, it's just a pick from Trevor Lawrence, that I don't mind at all. And then the fumbles are just, he literally dropped the ball when he was running because it was wet.
And he had a first down that he could have ran for too on that. That's it's just one of those games, like just like the Chiefs last week a little bit. Like, I mean,
it's just one of those games. It's just one of those games where I think the team you played against had more answers than you, and you ran into a couple bad moments. And Hassan Reddick deserves credit for messing shit up. The first one is a real strip sack. That was just it was a bull. He stuns the right tackle, pulls him by, and then just makes a play. And then the second one is just getting your hands on the ball.
Yeah,
he is a nice player. The Eagles have a lot of nice players.
They do. They have a lot of nice players throughout at every level of defense and every level of offense. It's a good team. It really is. And also just those turnovers. It's always going to come out of turnover battle. Just how math works, and that's how football works. But what the Eagles did after each of those turnovers, after the 4, I'm not going to include the 5th one. 7-play, 57-yard drive, touchdown. 8-play, 35-yard drive, which is hilarious, touchdown. 11-play, 78-yard drive, field goal. 6-play, 24-yard drive, touchdown. So touchdown, field goal. So they took advantage of their chances, that's what football comes down to, because they have good players that can do it and a good game plan. And they did it today.
When we were coming into this season, one of the reasons that I was bullish on the Eagles, that I thought they'd win the division, I thought they'd win one or more playoff games, is that I thought what they showed last season is flexibility, malleability, open-mindedness. It's like, all right, we're going to transition here when we need to. And we've seen that on both a macro and micro level with them this season. They transitioned on a macro level coming into this year with what their offense looks like now in this next stage of Jalen Hurts with A.J. Brown in the fold. This is another micro bit of flexibility. It's like, this is a rainy game. It's a nonsense game. We have a left tackle who's not playing in this game. What answers do we have? Their ability to find answers, short-term, long-term, pivot when necessary, is very impressive. And when you have that consistently with really good players lining your roster, you become very dangerous. And I think they keep passing all of these tests when we ask to see different versions of them. And that is not dampening my enthusiasm about the problems they can solve over the long term.
It's just it's the old school saying where the good teams find a way to win. And they won. Like, they were in control of this game for about the last 2.5 quarters, more or less. But that's what it was. This is our situation. Okay, what are we going to do about it? And that they find a way to do it. It helps when you have good players, of course, but you need good coaching and a good game plan to do it. And they had it on both sides like that. It was really good. Like, that's the thing. I don't want to knock the Jaguars for this game, because I still feel the same about the Jaguars. I really do. For that going into this week, I just want to put more credibility to what the Eagles did and give them really props for this win.